I was involved in the nurses' strike in the 80s. A very difficult time for everyone. I was a union delegate until I retired. It was a very important and supportive role the nurses' union played in my career and for many of us during some difficult times. But as nurses, we united and managed the fight to receive the important outcomes in nursing now. Nurses today have a lot to be thankful for those of us that have paved the way. Personal Recollections by Vicky Anderson, 2020. I trained at the Albury Mercy, but studied alongside the Albury Base nurses. We completed our 3-year training in April 1981. We were task-orientated at the beginning of our training in the late 70s. I think this changed in the early 80s. One junior nurse might be the fluids nurse, therefore responsible for all the IVT, urine output, bowel output, drain tubes, and, best of all, the horrid sputum cups. The other nurse's role could be the observation nurse, who was responsible for all the observations on the ward, including the half-hourly obs required for post-op patients returning from theatre. Usually a very busy job, with the little junior nurse frantically running from patient to patient. A particular memorable task was to undertake enemas with up to 2 litres of water. High, hot, and a hell of a lot. The patients also stayed in hospital much longer in those days, so we did get to know many of them quite well. They were generally quite well by the time they left the ward. There was much more practical nursing experience gained under the old hospital-based nursing training compared to the practical experience gained now. I guess we all practiced on the poor patients. The bed turnover is much, much quicker these days, with less time to get to know the patients. The uniform at the Mercy was very similar to a white bowls outfit, slightly more fitted blue-coloured at the Albury Base. The nuns were very particular that the uniform was at a suitable long length with no petticoats or lining of pants on show. I remember the base uniform being a little more flattering, blue and fitted. I went down to St Vincent's plastic unit, St Martin's ward, then on to St Vincent's ICU post-training to gain a greater diversity of experience. We learnt very good basic nursing care at the base and Mercy, which I feel has followed me throughout my career. I have worked locally at Blackie B, Albury ICU, and been at Wodonga Hospital since 1988 as a nurse and midwife. Personal Recollections of Julie Terrell, 2020. Director of Nursing's Report. I present my report for the year ending 30th June 1986. It has been a very busy year for nursing staff, with high occupancy rates in all general wards throughout the year. In April, 17 beds were reopened in the refurbished Blackie House surgical ward. However, the lack of staff to date has prevented the remaining 10 beds being put into use. A statewide nursing shortage has continued throughout the year, and in spite of offering more part-time positions, difficulties in obtaining sufficient staff remain. A new nurses award in June and the removal of the part-time loading, which will enable us to offer more part-time positions, will hopefully see an improvement in the future. I do sincerely thank all the nursing staff for maintaining their high standards of care in what have often been difficult times. Miss L. M. Turnbull, Director of Nursing. Albury Base Hospital Annual Report, 1985-86. Director of Nursing's Report. I have the pleasure of presenting my report for the year ending 30th June 1992. The response level by the nursing staff to activity levels and change is to be commended. New procedures, necessary for modern technology, continue to be introduced and represents a challenge to nursing administration each day to ensure sufficient nursing hours are available. The appreciation for the care patients have received is shown by the number of cards and letters sent to the hospital after discharge. This can only be attributed to the dedication and care our nursing staff manage to provide under sometimes stressful and difficult circumstances. Mrs. J. E. Dick, Director of Nursing, Albury Base Hospital and Health Services, Annual Report, 1991 to 92. Director of Nursing's Report. I take pleasure in presenting my report for the year ending 30 June 1993. This year has been a challenge in respect to time management, achievement of efficiency gains, and the prospect of moving into the new hospital in 1994. In the process of the change, it is essential that nursing can participate fully in the current and future developments in planning, delivery, and management of our health service. Nursing is the single discipline which provides a continuous 24-hour caring and monitoring service. Mrs. J. E. Dick, Director of Nursing, Albury Base Hospital and Health Services, Annual Report, 1992 to 93. The move to the new hospital was, if I remember rightly, done in a 24-hour period, and there was an internal manager, but the movers were engaged from Melbourne, and it was all carefully timed. There were lots of visits and planning prior to transfer. I was part of that time. The old hospital was a rabbit warren, but in a great position. Out here, the new hospital was state-of-the-art for its time. The patients were moved by ambulance and into new beds. The photo shows 2 nurses having a tea break on moving day. We had a great party on the old site when the move was over, with undertakers and coffin as a farewell. Personal Recollections by Helen McKee, 2020. I did my nursing at Beechworth Psychiatric Hospital and graduated in 1990. I saw a lot of change in the effort to modernise mental health care since the commencement of the mid-1990s deinstitutionalising and mainstreaming program. We also started to call ourselves mental health nurses and to reinvent ourselves. The image is one of the officers in the original Kerford unit at Mayday Hills. We didn't wear uniforms in the acute unit. It was called the ETU, Early Treatment Unit, and uniforms were considered to be barriers to therapeutic engagement. I trained with the Eastern and Metropolitan School of Psychiatric Nursing. It was a 3-year specialist course. I did a postgrad in advanced clinical nursing, mental health, in order to obtain a university qualification. I was able to receive recognition for my specialty hospital training. It was a concession the government made for nurses when the Register for Specialist Mental Health Nurses Division 3 was closed, and everyone was registered as nurses in general, Division 1. All nursing courses after that went to undergraduate general university. The closing of the Division 3 register created a lot of confusion and anger, and mental health nurses took a battering. It occurred at the same time of the closing of psychiatric hospitals. At the time, mental health nursing workforce was hardwired to the institutions, and nurses started to experience stigma as a profession and loss of trust from the community and government. When the decision was made for all mental health nursing to go to postgrad coursework, the skilled and specialist workforce declined. Now I always say that becoming a mental health nurse takes 5 years of committed study. There are still a few of us, the old guard psych nurses, who have stayed to deliver and build the mental health services according to the plan of integration, for better or worse. Today I have to say the outlook holds promise for a revived and revitalised mental health nursing workforce. Personal Recollections by Pauline Brandon, 2020. I commenced my undergraduate nursing studies at La Trobe University at the Wodonga campus in 1997. We started with a much larger number of males than graduated from the registered nurse course, which was about 10% male. I left the area to nurse at the Austin in Melbourne before travelling around the country, nursing in lots of different settings along the way, from working on Thursday Island in the Torres Strait to nursing homes in Alice Springs to ICU and ED in Perth. Nursing gives you this freedom, and that is why we make a career from the passion to help our patients and community. Personal Recollections of Brett Presnell, 2020.